Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be on how to start off with fashion photography, and it's something that I've been asked a lot over the last few years. How do I start fashion photography? I really want to do it, but I'm so nervous, or I just don't know where to start. There's just so many things to consider. So I'm just going to give you guys a few points today on a few good ways to start photography, to ease yourself into it, and to do it in a way that's not going to be too overwhelming. So I think the first point of this is, before anything else, find out who your role models are. Find out who inspires you, whose work definitely inspires you all the time, or someone that you think would push you to do better with your own work, to inspire you to try new things. I think that's so important. I think that's how I first started off. Before I even knew I wanted to do fashion photography, that's what happened to me. I found my role models straight off the bat. I found a couple of fashion photographers that I absolutely adored, and I adored their work, and I think that's where everything started for me, and that's where my inspiration and my creativity was really started for photography, is through those role models. So definitely an important part. Find out who inspires you. The number 2 tip is to start building your portfolio, and this is a really big focus point when you're first starting out. This is all that matters as a first-time photographer, someone brand new who's not even thinking about the business side of things yet. Just focus on your portfolio and building your portfolio, experimenting and developing it. There's different ways you can do this, and I know for a lot of people it's sometimes very intimidating to approach a model or someone that they don't know to start modeling for their photographs first off. I didn't do that for quite a few years, to be honest, because I was just way too nervous and way too scared to do that. So what I first started off doing, and I think would be a great idea for a lot of photographers who are looking at starting fashion photography but not too keen to approach someone just yet, in terms of a model, take self-portraits. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, and I know they don't always like having themselves on camera, but I think it's a really great way to start. You don't have to rely on anyone else but yourself, so you can do it at any time of day. I think it's really good to be creative and start doing your own thing with self-portraits, and you can really develop a following out of that. That's how I first started off on DeviantArt. For quite a few years I just did self-portraits, and I developed my Photoshop skills by using that. I didn't have to ask anyone's permission to post photos anywhere because it was just me in the photographs. So I think that's a really good way to start off. If you're looking a bit further ahead than that though, definitely feel free to ask your friends and family members if they'd model for you. I used several friends before I approached more of a professional model to do a photo shoot with me. I used a few friends, and that worked out really well. It gave me more time to experiment with different colorings and to actually help build my portfolio before I even approached someone else. Along with building your portfolio, make sure you know how to use your camera manually. This will make things a lot easier in the long run. Once you get your head around just the numbers and what they mean and the details of using your camera, you're going to feel a lot more comfortable on shoots, and especially with organizing lighting and shade and everything that comes along with putting together a photograph and a photo shoot. It's going to help a lot if you just know the basics of how to use your camera, and there's plenty of tutorials online for that sort of thing as well. So I'd highly recommend making sure that's one of the first things you do. So the next tip, guys, would be to start learning the basics of Photoshop retouching. And I'm not saying anything too crazy here. You don't need to know a heap of stuff about Photoshop just yet, but just the basics, like some healing tools, maybe adjustment layers for toning your images, and just work out how the basic adjustments do work, because it will help you in developing and experimenting more in the future. And there's plenty of tutorials online for Photoshop. I've got heaps on my channel if you want to watch those. But just a few small steps with learning Photoshop yourself is always good. I've found that I pretty much have been all self-taught when it comes to Photoshop in particular. I didn't really learn that much from my course that I did for photography with Photoshop, so a lot of it has been self-taught, and it's quite easy to do when you're spending a lot of time in front of Photoshop and you are using a lot of different tools. So I'd just say experiment, learn the basics first though, and see how you go with that. The next tip would be to start making contacts for fashion photography. Now this can be a little bit intimidating, but it's really not as hard as it sounds. You don't need a lot of contacts to start off with. Just a really good team, a reliable set of people that you can work with, and you're not going to be screwed around on shoots or anything like that. So just finding makeup artists, maybe a couple that you can work with on a regular basis, maybe hairstylists as well. stylists are not overly important, especially when you're first starting out. I think it's good to sort of use your own styling skills and start maybe getting some clothing from op shops and collecting some things, or just even asking the model or whoever you're using to model, so your friends, family members, whoever, just getting them to bring their own clothing along, and then you can sort of mix and match and choose what you like to have in your shoot. But yeah, start making those contacts and start reaching out through social media sites. Facebook groups are a really good one to start with. So usually there'll be a Facebook group if you're in a city or a big town, or there's one of those nearby you. A lot of places will have their own Facebook groups for creatives, and you just have to do a search and try and find them, and usually you can sort of work your way into the community. So yeah, start making those contacts and start reaching out to people through those Facebook groups that you often see with creatives. It's not as hard as it does seem. It can be quite easy once you've worked with someone before to keep that person as a really good contact for the following years when you're developing your portfolio. So it's all about just finding a creative team that you can work with on a regular basis and get to know them quite well. Alright guys, I hope you really enjoyed this video, and I hope those tips were really helpful if you're just starting out with photography. It's always intimidating, I know, when you first start out, but honestly, you do become more confident over time, and the more you work with different people, it does improve your confidence, and you'll develop your portfolio and you'll get to see the progress that you've made over time, and that's really, really satisfying when that happens. If you guys have any more questions about starting fashion photography, feel free to put them in the comment section below and I'll do my best to answer them. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel already, please do. And all my social media accounts and gear that I use are in the description box below, so feel free to check those out. And thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you next time. Bye!